Chivalrous woman. It is said that there was a scholar named Gu in Nanjing who was very knowledgeable and could write and draw, but his family was very poor. Because his mother was old, Gu Sheng couldn't bear to leave his mother's lap, so he had to paint for others every day to earn some money to make ends meet. Gu Sheng is already 25 years old and has not married yet. Opposite his house was an empty house, and an old lady and a young girl lived in it. Since there were no men in their family, they were never asked who they were. One day, Gu Sheng accidentally came home from outside and saw a woman coming out of his mother's room across from him. She was about 18 or 19 years old. She was very beautiful and elegant, and was incomparable in the world. When the woman met Gu Sheng head-on, she didn't avoid him very much, but her expression was cold and majestic. After the woman left, Gu Sheng went to his mother's room and asked about her. The mother said, "The girl from across the door just came to borrow scissors and ruler from me. She said that there was only one mother in her family and no one else. I see this girl is not like a poor family member." When asked why she didn't get married, she said that her mother is old and has no one to take care of her. "I will go over to see her mother tomorrow and give you a hint. If they don't ask for high conditions and we get married, you can take care of her, mother." The next day, Gu's mother visited the girl at her home and saw that her mother was a deaf old lady. She saw that her family was so poor that she had no overnight food. When asked what they relied on for a living, the answer was that their daughters did needlework. Gu's mother slowly and tentatively expressed the idea of living together. The old lady seemed to agree, but her daughter remained silent and was unwilling. Mother Gu went home without saying anything else. After returning home, he thought about the situation carefully and said to Gu Sheng, "Does the woman think our family is poor? This child is serious, neither speaks nor smiles. Although he looks as handsome as a peach and plum, his temperament is as cold as ice. He is really a child. Weird." The mother and son were suspicious for a while, then let it go. One day, Gu Sheng was sitting at one end of the house painting, and a young man came to him and begged him to paint. This young man is very beautiful, but looks very frivolous. Gu Sheng asked him where he was from, and he said he was from a neighboring village. "From then on, I came every 3 or 2 days. After getting acquainted with him a little, he gradually started joking with Gu Sheng. Gu Sheng hugged him, but he didn't refuse, and the relationship immediately became warm and ambiguous. From then on, the two became more intimate. Once, the young man saw the girl walking by, stared at her as she walked away, and asked Gu Sheng who she was. Gu Sheng said it was the girl from the opposite door. The young man said, "This girl is so beautiful, but her expression is very scary." After a while, Gu Sheng came to his mother's room. His mother said, "The woman came to borrow rice just now and said that she had been without food for a day. This girl is very filial and her family is very poor. We should give her some money." After listening to his mother's words, Gu Sheng carried a bucket of rice to her house and told his mother what she had said. The woman stayed and did not say a word of thanks. From then on, the woman often went to Gu Sheng's house. When she saw Gu's mother making clothes or shoes, she would bring them to make clothes or shoes for Gu's mother. She would come in and out and help with the housework, just like the daughter-in-law of the Gu family. Seeing this, Gu Sheng felt even more grateful to the woman. Later, every time the Gu family received a gift from others, they would always give half to the woman's mother. And the woman still didn't say any kind words like thank you. Once, Gu's mother got sick in her vagina and she screamed in pain day and night. The woman came to visit her every day, wash her and change her dressing, 3 or 4 times a day. Gu's mother was very uneasy, but the woman never felt dirty. Gu's mother said, "Oh, how can our family find a daughter-in-law like you? She will take care of her until she dies." After saying this, she started to cry. The woman comforted her and said, "Your son is very filial. He is hundreds of times better than us orphans and widowed mothers." Gu's mother then said, "He comes and goes by my bedside. How can a filial son do this? Besides, he comes and goes by my bedside. I am already in my twilight years and will inevitably be buried sooner or later. What I am worried about is that I will not have any descendants." While they were talking, Gu Sheng came into the room. Gu's mother cried and said to her son, "We owe the girl a lot. Don't forget to repay her for her kindness." After hearing this, Gu Sheng bowed to the girl to thank her. The woman said, "I didn't even thank you for taking care of my mother. Why should you thank me?" So Gu Sheng respected and loved her even more. However, the woman's behavior was always very serious, and Gu Sheng did not dare to approach her easily. One day, when the woman came back from going out, Gu Sheng looked at her. She suddenly turned around and smiled brightly at Gu Sheng. Gu Sheng was overjoyed and followed the woman into her house. Gu Sheng wanted to get close to her, but the woman did not refuse and readily agreed. Afterwards, the woman warned Gu Sheng, "This can only happen once and never again." Gu Sheng did not agree and went home. The next day, Gu Sheng asked the woman to meet again, but the woman was very serious and left without paying any attention to him. After that, the woman still came to Gu's house every day and saw each other every day, but did not give Gu Sheng any kind words or good looks. Sometimes Gu Sheng would tell her a joke, but she would reject it coldly. Once, the woman suddenly asked Gu Sheng in a deserted place, "Who is that young man who came here a few days ago?" Gu Sheng told her. The woman continued, "That man acted rudely to me several times. Because he is your friend, I ignored him. Please tell him, if he is rude to me again, he will not want to live." That night, Gu Sheng told the young man what the woman said and warned him, "Be careful. She is not easy to mess with." The young man said, "Since she is inviolable, how could you violate her?" Gu Sheng confessed that there was nothing wrong with her. The young man added, "If nothing happened, why would she tell you?" All the things that are difficult to say between men and women, Gu Sheng couldn't answer for a while. The young man said again, "Please also tell her, don't pretend. Otherwise, I will preach to you everywhere." Gu Sheng was very angry after hearing this, and his face became angry. And the young man laughed. One night, when Gu Sheng was sitting alone in the room, the woman suddenly came and said with a smile, "I am still in love with you. Isn't this God's will?" Gu Sheng was so happy that he hurriedly held the woman in his arms. Suddenly they heard footsteps, and the two of them got up in panic, and saw the young man pushing the door open and coming in. Gu Sheng asked in surprise, "What are you going to do?" The young man smiled and said, "I came to see a chase person." Then he looked at the woman and said, "Don't blame me today." The woman's eyebrows stood up and her face turned red. Without saying anything, he hurriedly opened his coat, revealing a leather pouch, and casually pulled out a dagger, shining brightly. When the young man saw it, he was so frightened that he ran away. The woman chased him out the door and looked around, but she was nowhere to be seen. She threw the dagger into the air. There was a crunching sound, a bright light was like a rainbow, and then something plopped down to the ground. Gu Sheng hurriedly illuminated it with a candle and saw that it was a white fox with two heads missing. He was shocked. The woman said, "This is the good friend you are in love with. I originally wanted to spare him, but he didn't want to live." Then she put the dagger away in the sheath. Gu Sheng pulled the woman into the house again. The woman said, "The goblin came just now to spoil the fun. Please wait until tomorrow night." After that, she went out and left. The next night, the woman came again, and they had fun together. Gu Sheng asked her what magic she had, and the woman said, "This is not something you should know. It needs to be kept secret. If it is leaked, I am afraid it will be detrimental to you." Gu Sheng discussed the matter of marriage with the woman again. The woman said, "We already sleep together, and I help you with housework. We have become husband and wife. So why are we talking about marriage?" Gu Sheng said again, Don't you think my family is poor?" The woman said, "Your family is certainly poor, but my family is rich. I'm meeting you tonight just to pity you for being poor." Before leaving, she said to Gu Sheng, "Such shameful things cannot be done too often. More, I will come naturally when I should come. When I shouldn't come, it's useless for you to force me." After the two met together, Gu Sheng often tried to lure her to have a word with her alone, but the woman avoided him every time. But she comes to Gu's family to sew and cook, and she still does housework as before, no less than a real daughter-in-law. A few months later, the woman's mother passed away, and Gu Sheng tried his best to help the woman prepare for the funeral. The woman lived alone from then on. Gu Sheng thought, the woman lives alone at home, so she can go to her at will. So he jumped over the wall into the woman's yard and called her through the window. But after calling several times, no one answered. He looked at the door. It was closed properly, but no one was in the room. Gu Sheng thought to himself, the woman might be dating someone else. He went to visit again the next night, and it was still the same as last night. So he put a jade pendant on the windowsill and went home. One day later, Gu Sheng and the woman met in Gu's mother's room. When Gu Sheng walked out of the room, the woman chased him out and said to Gu Sheng, "Do you doubt me? Everyone has their own concerns, and some of them can't be told casually. Others, it's impossible not to make you suspicious today. But there is an urgent matter and you have to help me find a solution quickly." The doctor asked what was going on, and the woman said, "I am 8 months pregnant, and I'm afraid I will give birth soon. My identity is not yet clear. I can only give birth to you, but I cannot help you raise me. Can you tell me secretly, your mother, find a wet nurse and pretend she has a baby? You can't say it was born by me." After Gu Sheng agreed, he told his mother. His mother smiled and said, "This girl is really strange. I don't want to marry her, but she is secretly in love with my son." He happily agreed to their request and only waited until the baby was born. More than a month passed, and the woman did not come to Gu's house for several days. Gu's mother had doubts, so she went to the woman's house to visit. At first glance, the door was closed tightly and the courtyard was silent. After calling the door for a long time, the woman came out of the house with disheveled hair, invited Mother Gu into the house, and closed the door again. Gu's mother entered the room and saw a little baby already on the bed. Mother Gu was surprised and asked, "How long has it been since you gave birth?" She replied, "It's been 3 days." Mother Gu untied the mattress and saw a little boy with a broad forehead and a very cute look. Gu's mother happily said, "My son, you have given birth to a grandson. From now on, if you are alone, where will you find a home?" The woman said, "I have one more unfinished matter that I cannot tell my mother. Wait until there is no one at night. You can take the baby with you." When Gu's mother returned home and told her son all this, she felt strange in her heart. At night, he took the baby back. A few days later, in the middle of the night, the woman suddenly opened Gu Sheng's door and came in, holding a leather bag in her hand. She smiled and said to Gu Sheng, "My important things have been done, and we will part ways from now on." Gu Sheng asked anxiously what the reason was, and the woman said, "I will never forget your kindness in helping me support my mother. I once said to you before, one thing can be done, but not two things, which means that I don't want to repay your kindness. I live with you because your family is too poor to marry, and I want to leave you with offspring. I originally hoped that I could get pregnant at once, but I didn't expect that my period came again. So I broke the precept and had sex with you again. Today I have repaid you, thanks to your great kindness. My worries have been settled and I have no regrets." Gu Sheng asked, "What is in the leather bag?" He replied, "The head of my enemy." When he opened it, his flesh and blood were blurred. Gu Sheng was very panicked and asked for the reason. The woman said, "I haven't told you in the past because the matter was confidential, and I was afraid that the news would leak out. Today, the big thing has been successful, so I might as well tell you. I am originally from Zhejiang. My father was an official in Sima. I was framed by my enemies, and my entire family was raped and executed. I escaped with my mother on my back and lived incognito for 3 years. The reason why I didn't take revenge immediately was because my mother was still alive. Later, my mother died and there was a baby in her belly, so I postponed it for some time. I was not at home those nights. I was going to explore the enemy's roads and entrances, fearing that I might make a mistake if I wasn't familiar with them." After saying that, he walked out of Gu Sheng's room, turned around and said again, "You must take good care of the child I gave birth to. You are not blessed and do not have much life left. This child can bring glory to your ancestors. The night is already deep. Don't disturb the old mother." In leaving, Gu Sheng felt very sad and was about to ask her where she was going. When the woman's body flashed like a flash of lightning and she disappeared, Gu Sheng stood there blankly like a piece of wood for a long, long time. At dawn, Gu Sheng told his mother, and the mother and son could only sigh. 3 years later, Gu Sheng died. His son became a jinshi at the age of 18 and supported his grandmother until his death.
Alright, this story has come to an end. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you.